तव मूर्ति विनोदकारी पलपिन विसरे नहीं जो विसारी जुगल चरण सोल चिन्ह जेह नजर समीपे रहो हमारी येह हरे कृष्ण महाराज निजे घनश्याम महाराज निजे स्वामीनारायण भगवान निजे. Almighty Supreme Lord Swaminarayan, our inspire Pujipad Guruji, and all of you devotees, my humble Jai Swaminarayan. For the past couple of lectures, we've been talking about and discussing and analyzing various Vachnamruts, some regarding how to shed the influence of bad company, some regarding how to stay strong in this fellowship, some regarding how to become a great satsangi or devotee. But overall, if one wants to progress in satsang, there needs to be a force of strength in order to walk the path of satsang. What I'm trying to say is, if there's a newborn baby, and if it's not nourished properly, or if it's not fed properly or taken care of properly, then it does not develop like it's supposed to. In the same way, on the spiritual path, there's also some kind of nourishment needed, some kind of force needed, some kind of energy needed in order to progress in satsang. Now, I want to talk about a particular word. It's called strength. Now, the first thing when we hear the word strength comes to mind is a powerful or a very strong person, muscles, you can say. That's the first image that pops into our mind. Sure, it's valid. But if looking at a physical perspective, it is valid. There's many kinds of strength in this world. Physical strength, you can say strength in the social life, meaning in status-wise. You're very high in status. That's a type of strength. Financially, you're strong, meaning you have a lot of money. There's also mental strength, which can't be seen, but still, it can be shown through our physical and oral actions. Such kind of strength is very important, and through that, we can progress in this world. But on the path of religion, what kind of strength is needed in order to walk the path of liberation? Well, just like how mental strength cannot be seen, such spiritual strength cannot be seen totally. But there are ways where one can take steps in order to gain strength. In the Vachnamrut, Gadhada middle chapter, 63rd Vachnamrut, Shashtriji Maharaj himself has spoken of Vachnamrut, and the heading given by Nan Santos is gaining strength. I just want to read you a very short part of this whole Vachnamrut, and I want to analyze it and go over it with you. Because the topic that we're talking about is regarded in this paragraph. So Bhagwan is saying, There is, however, an even greater method than this to gain strength. First, Bhagwan showed a method where if one kept extreme caution of one's indriyas, and if one has become such strong through one's mind, then in itself is the strength or the vritti of the soul. Now this is very, very deep and very complex to understand. But then afterwards, Bhagwan gives us an easy way for this age so they can also grasp this point. So Bhagwan is saying, Swaminarayan Hare, Swaminarayan Hare. There is, however, an even greater method than this to gain strength. If a person has love for God and his saint, possesses intense shraddha in serving them, and also engages in the 9 types of bhakti, then his jiva will instantly gain strength. Thus, for making the jiva stronger, there is no method comparable to that of serving God and his bhakta. This is the small paragraph that we want to discuss today. Now, first and foremost, why do we need to gain strength on the path of religion? Well, for millions and millions of years, we've been disturbed by the force of Maya. Millions and millions, countless lives, we've been disturbed by the force of Maya. Through this force, we have not been able to reach the supreme entity, Lord Swaminarayan. And due to that, we are traveling in this circle of life and death over and over in different types of bodies. This is not the only body that the soul that we have inside has received. This soul has received innumerable bodies of humans, of animals, of even organisms, plants, etc. Whatever living entity, we have become everything. We have taken that body. But we have not broken this bondage because we don't have that nourishment. We haven't gained strength in order to fight against the force of Maya. So the reason why we want to gain strength to walk on the path of liberation is to destroy the bondage of Maya. And when this happens, then we can attain God very easily. So, number one, it's to help us fight against our mind, body, and senses, or indriyas. Now, the body, we can say, has been disturbing us for a long time. Since we've taken this birth, just think about it. We have dedicated probably 99% of our time out of 24 hours to nourish this body. Now, this is a disturbance. First and foremost, let's break down our schedule so we can see that the body is actually not as much as a help as we think it is in reaching Bhagwan. There's 24 hours in a day. Out of those 24 hours, let's say we sleep 8 hours a night. So, 8 hours we sleep. That's counting, so we subtract that, so there's 16 hours remaining. After that, in our morning time, if we're a student, we go to school. Let's say our school starts at 8 o'clock, let's say that, and ends at 3 o'clock. So that's 7 hours again. So 16 minus 7, that's 9 hours remaining. So we come back from school, and from that time being, we eat, which also gives nourishment to the body. Then we watch TV. That gives nourishment to our mind. And then we do our homework, let's say that's 3-4 hours. And then we might sit with our family for some time and then go to sleep again. This is our routine day. And through this routine day, we pretty much spend our life like this. If you are a graduate, meaning if you're out in the world and you have work, then you just replace the school portion with the work portion, and everything else remains the same pretty much. So, regarding that, the first 8 hours of sleep, you nourish your body. When you eat in the morning, you're nourishing your body. When you eat in the afternoon, you're nourishing your body. When you eat dinner at night, you're nourishing your body. And when you're sitting down, you're also nourishing your body. Now, so much time we spend nourishing our body, yet our time is not spent even for a fraction, even for half an hour, to do some God-related activity. To break this force, we must gain strength. On the mental basis, different thoughts keep occurring in our mind. Thoughts about eating tasty food, thoughts about playing video games, thoughts about doing any other activity besides God-related activities. This is a constant channel running through our mind. Due to that, we're unable to walk on the path of liberation because we need strength. It's not possible. And finally, our indriyas, meaning our senses. One of the most difficult of disturbances, because the senses, the eyes, the ears, nose, tongue, and skin, they're the ones who are gaining knowledge of this world, what we see, what we do, what we talk, what we eat. And through that, our mind's thoughts are shaped in that manner. So they are also a big disturbance. But to break this force of the body, the mind, and the senses, we must gain strength. Now, at first, it may seem very difficult because for millions and millions of countless lives, this Maya, this force of darkness, has been attached to our soul. And due to that, we only want to do things that are opposite of God-related activities. But if we gained some kind of strength, if someone gave us that adrenaline boost, then we would be able to fight back against these enemies and to conquer them so we can walk on the path of liberation and worship God freely, independently, without any kind of bondage. That's why I chose this topic, so that each and every one of you can understand that breaking the bondage of Maya is important. But in order to do that, one must first gain strength. Now, the very first characteristic Bhagwan shows us is possessing love for God and His saint. Now, you may think, I don't know who God is. How could I possess love for Him? I haven't seen Him. I haven't talked to Him. I have not met Him. How could I possess love for God? Question arises in each and every one of our minds. When we're especially new, it's very difficult. It's kind of like being blind and told to walk on a tie rope that's hung 100 foot in the air. How can one do that? It's very difficult. But the first step is developing affection for an ekantic saint. In the Vachnamrut, Gadhada, first chapter, 54th Vachnamrut, Shashtriji Maharaj says that however much affection one has for one's relatives, just think how much affection one has, how much love one has for one's father, one's mother, brother, sister. Just that much, not more or not less, just that much love. Take that love and develop the same love in a true ekantic saint. By doing this, the gates of liberation are opened. Muktan Swami is asked that how can Bhagavad Dharma be upheld and how could the gates of liberation be opened? Shree Maharaj showed a way. Just by developing affection for such a saint, Bhagavad Dharma is upheld and the gates of liberation are open. So, after saying this, Bhagwan says, he gives us a technique. Just however much affection you have for your parents, develop that much affection for that saint. And through that, one will develop affection for God, and one gate of liberation will also be opened. It's kind of a master key if you think about it. Also, in the Vachnamrut, Gadhada, middle chapter, 54th Vachnamrut, Shree Maharaj says that I'm not pleased by Ashtang Yoga or renunciation or donations or visiting pilgrimages, as I am pleased by performing satsang. What is considered to be satsang? Satsang is to attach oneself to such a true saint. This is the definition Bhagwan gives in the Vachnamrut, Gadhada, middle chapter, 54th Vachnamrut. Now, giving these two examples, Bhagwan shows us what we have to do in order to develop affection for God, to develop affection by doing this, one starts to slowly gain strength. But that's only 33%. There's still two other points remaining that Bhagwan gives us. So moving on, the second step Bhagwan shows us is intense Shraddha in serving God and His strength and His saints. We talked about Shraddha last time and said that Shraddha is an effort and also it can be considered to be faith. Now, in this point, we're talking about an effort, a yearning to please and to serve God and His saints. Now, if one wants to serve, or if one has an intense Shraddha to serve God and saints, what does one need? One needs a humble attitude, first and foremost. If you think about it, everyone likes a person who is humble. And if you look in another way, no one likes a person who possesses ego. And due to that, one is deviated from the path of liberation. Now, what I want to talk about is serving is a very, very great merit to have. In Gadhada, middle chapter, 59th Vachnamrut, Bhagwan has said, the one who has had great merit in his past has a chance to serve God and His saint and His bhakta in this lifetime. So, fortunate if one gets a chance to serve God and His saints. one must be very fortunate. And the characteristics of such a person are noted in the Vachnamrut. Now in Gadhada middle chapter, 16th Vachnamrut, Bhagwan gives us a very clear definition of the word Shraddha. There's a question asked by Akarnanand Swami, what are the characteristics of Shraddha? Bhagwan says, number one, such a person, when one wants to engage in God-related activities, one becomes very hasty in one's bodily activities, such as bathing or etc., eating. One becomes very hasty in those activities so one can reach God-related activities quickly. Number two, if Bhagwan was to change some kind of religious vow, anything, one would be very eager to comply. He wouldn't be very upset or strong about it and saying that, why did you change this? No, he would be very eager to comply, and he would do it in an instant. And third, he would be very, very eager to have the darshan of God, meaning have the sight of God. Such a person, these are the characteristics of a person who has Shraddha. Now, Gadhada middle chapter, 25th, Bhagwan talks about a very great devotee that we have also talked about in the past, named Ukakashar. He had intense Shraddha in serving God and His saints. How so? Well, every day he would wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and he would sweep the pathway from Dadakachar's Darbar to the Gela River, which has to be about 1 kilometer or more away. And he would sweep it. Why? So that when the saints wake up in the morning around 5 a.m., then rocks, sharp rocks, or other sharp objects would not prick or hurt the saints' feet. So, Ukakachar would sweep that whole way and wake up in 3 in the morning and sweep the whole way. Due to that Shraddha, the saints were all pleased. And due to that, Bhagwan noted Ukakachar's name in the Vachnamrut and said that if one wants to eradicate one's own base nature, then if one develops such a serving attitude for God and the saints where one cannot live without serving them, then one's mind, one's antakaran would become very pure and one's sins would be destroyed. So this is the very characteristic of a person who possesses intense Shraddha. And lastly, number 3, engages in the 9 types of bhakti. Now, the bhakti is a very, very intricate and very, very rare thing to possess. Why? Because in the end, one has to develop bhakti, one has to develop affection for God. That's the final basis. But on a primary level, there's 9 types of bhakti. Now, I'm going to first name them and then briefly explain them. First is Shravanam, meaning listening to Katha. Second is Kirtanam, meaning singing the divine hymns of God. Number 3 is Shmaranam, remembering God. Number 4 is Bhadsevanam, meaning serving God's holy feet. Number 5 is Archanam, meaning applying sandalwood paste on God. Number 6 is Vandanam, meaning bowing down to God. Number 7 is dasyam, meaning becoming the servant of God. Number 8 is sakyam, meaning becoming the friend of God. Number 9 is atmanivedanam, meaning total surrendership to God. By performing these 9 types of devotees or devotion, Bhagwan becomes pleased. But one can also gain strength. The first 33% was for possessing love for God and His saints. The next 33% was intense shraddha in serving God and His saint. And the last 33% is to engage in the 9 types of bhakti, totaling of 99%. When these 3 factors are put together, one gains total strength to walk on the path of liberation. Now, you're probably thinking about that 1%. What is that 1%? Well, when these 3 combine, then that 1% that equals that 100% is that force to fight against Maya. Meaning, such a person cannot be disturbed by any kind of outside activities because he's engaged in God-related activities. Due to that, no forces are able to hurt him from the outside world. That's that 1%. And when one is totally 100%, and when Bhagwan sees this, and the great saint sees this, then he becomes very pleased on that devotee. So, in the end, when one wants to walk on the path of liberation, there is no better way to gain strength, to break the forces, the bondage of Maya, than to apply these 3 methods. And when one does this, then one is able to easily break the bondage of Maya and is easily able to please Bhagwan. So, just like how we practice to become physically strong by working out in the gym, or we practice mental exercises to make our memory sharp, or we do any kind of practice or we perform anything to gain strength in the world, if one practices this spiritual path of gaining strength recommended and spoken by Shriji Maharaj himself, then I guarantee there is no other method and way to please God as this method is possible. So please practice this method as suggested to understand and please God even more. Hare Krishna Maharajani Jai. Shripatim Sridharam Sarvadeveshwaram Bhaktidharmatmajam Vasudevam Hare Madhavam Kesavam Kamadam Karanam Swaminarayanam Nilkantham Bhaje. Hare Krishna Maharajani Jai.